I don't know. I guess you'd record it on the computer and then you can upload it to yourself.
I think
That
I
way
did.
you have it for, for future and for everybody. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
No, I appreciate
Right.
it.
You got it, buddy.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Philip. And Todd Watkins is calling in. I don't think he has a link either. Hold on one second. This is quirky. Todd, I'm already on the class, bud. You don't have a link. Do you have a link? What are you calling for? Do you have a link? Need a link?
No, I don't.
You don't have.
The links I've got are not getting me in.
Okay.
So sorry.
No worries at all. I had a feeling that's why you were calling. That's why I picked you up. Hey, Noel, how can I get Todd onto the call and make sure that he has a link?
What's the meeting?
At the bottom, where it says participants, click that, and then you click invite, and then you can enter his email.
Say that again. Say that again, Noel.
If you click at the bottom where it says like chat, participants, share screen, you go to participants, you click that, and a little box opens up, and then at the bottom it says invite of that box. And then from there you can
invite with Gmail or default mail or Yahoo Mail.
I guess whichever email you have.
Hold on, Todd.
I usually have Gmail, so I use Gmail.
You can also give them the meeting ID number, and if they just go to zoom.u.whatever.
Okay, guys, can you give me the meeting number? Okay, I have it right here. Is that it ends in 78?
I can't see it where I'm at, but
yes, it does.
Yes, 78.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Todd.
Okay.
It's HTTPS.
Okay, I just need the last 10 numbers are.
You bet. It's 883.
883
792
792
52278.
52278.
Yep.
Cool. All right, thanks, man.
You bet, buddy. All right, boy, I've never missed Chris Pasquale so much in my life. This technology stuff is a little batty. But anyways, I'm really excited to talk to you about today's class. So we're going to get into your listing presentation and buyer's consultation. So the listing presentation is a pretty advanced tool. And I want you to keep a couple of things in mind when you're meeting with somebody. First of all, it's really important to make sure that your time is well spent with them. And as I talked about this several times now, there are 5 components that you want to focus on when taking somebody through a presentation. There are what I call 5 components to a selling cycle. And the first one is, again, building a rapport. And please, please remember, people are going to do business with you if, in fact, they do like you, if they trust you, if they deem you as being competent and responsive. So building a rapport with them is critical. It's not about talking a lot. If you have to talk a lot, buy a dog, buy a puppy. It is not about you. It is solely about them and you understanding how to meet their needs. It is nothing to do with you. It is about you being a good listener and asking really appropriate questions. So how do you build a rapport with somebody? It's the acronym we talked about before. It's asking people questions about their family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. The second component to a selling cycle, as we talked about, is understanding someone's motivation. Guys, stop being so hard on yourself. You can't motivate somebody to take action. The questions that you ask will dictate to you whether you want to invest the time and effort into that relationship, if they're motivated to take action. That makes sense, Adama?
Mm-hmm.
Third component of a selling cycle is doing a proper needs analysis. And this is awesome. If your needs analysis is done appropriately or correctly, if you're asking detailed questions, Jim, what will happen is someone will take you down a roadmap that leads you to a pot of gold. So it's doing a proper in-depth needs analysis. The fourth component to a selling cycle, and it's really important that you embrace this, it is to set proper expectations. Guys, don't work with clients that are going to sabotage your business. If somebody is there to disempower you or to antagonize you or takes you away from serving others, move away from the relationship. And it has always puzzled me why realtors, and I know the answer to this, why they take on these type of clients. Why realtors take on these type of clients is because they don't have enough clients. They're desperate to close transactions. Why it's so imperative for each of you every day to lead generate, to prospect, to business develop, so you have a large funnel of buyers and sellers so you could select who you choose to work with. That's an empowering way to go about building your business. But what very often happens is we are so attached to a commission check in order to pay our bills that we are selling the farm and working inevitably with some of the wrong people. And the fifth component to a selling cycle is get a commitment. Don't work with people who aren't committed to working with you. Really important. It's also important to follow the metrics that we had put. Todd is texting me. Sorry, guys. Okay, Todd, let me in. Sorry, buddy. Okay. Admitting all. Okay.
Hey!
Good. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we just talked about the selling cycle and the importance of understanding that and really following protocol. Again, remember, value the time that you're going to spend with this seller on a listing presentation. Your time is absolutely invaluable. It is absolutely invaluable. So you want to make sure that you're sending out your pre-listing packet so your time could be well spent. And I made an analogy in the last class. If you remember a date that you've ever been on in your life, you didn't sit there and read a presentation book and ask a question. What you did is you looked somebody in the eye in an effort to drive that relationship deep. I want to make sure that you send out the pre-listing packet so they can be familiar with all of the detail or the minutia that's entailed in getting them the results that they ultimately desire. So really, really important. There's two things to consider on a listing presentation. Your whole focus on the first part of your presentation is only two things. I'm going to break this down to you as simply as I possibly can. Number one, identifying if they like you, trust you, and see you as being their real estate professional. Does that make sense, Michael Friedman? They like you, trust you, and see you as being the person that could be their real estate professional. The second component, really important, is do they believe that the plan of action that you've provided in the pre-listing packet will yield them the results that they are seeking. Those are the two components that I really focus on. Now I want to ask you, who don't I ever call on? Mary Rose. I don't think you and I have ever spoken. Mary Rose. Do you go by Mary or Mary Rose? I don't think she's going to talk to me. Mary Rose? No. Pauline.
Hello.
Hi.
Bobby Joe wants to talk, Garrett.
Bobby Joe. What are the two most important things that a seller wants you to identify for them?
What we think they're going to get for their house.
You bet. That's number one. What's the second thing that they're really focused on?
How long?
Not how long.
It's gonna
Close.
take, I don't know.
Your commission, how much it's going to cost them for you to sell their
Cost
home.
them.
So the
Okay.
professional fee, and what is the value of their home? Do not broach these subjects with them until they've identified that they want you to sell their home and they believe in your marketing plan will get them the results that they're ultimately seeking. So I want you to gently push back. It's putting the cart before the horse. And you could say to them, you know, I understand the support and the importance of the significance of addressing those two items. But to make sure that we're going about this the right way, wouldn't it first make sense to determine if I'm the professional that you could see working with to getting you the results that you want when putting your home on the market? And in fact, believe the plan of action that we're going to be implementing will yield you the proper results. So although they're going to want to talk about the price of their home and what your professional fee for service is, I want you to gently push back on that with your focus on the first part of the presentation being, do they believe in you and do they believe in the marketing plan that you've put forward?
Okay.
Make sense?
Sounds
Make
good.
sense?
Yes, totally.
Awesome. All right.
Wow.
I'm going to pull up the listing presentation here. Buyer's pledge, buyer seeking property. Where is my listing presentation? Bear with me 1 second, guys. Let me pull up the listing presentation here. Okay, listing presentation. Awesome. Now it should pop up for me. Listing presentation. Okay, should be on your screen. Can everyone see this?
No. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the golden rules of your listing presentation to keep in mind as you enter the house is number one, is I want you to mirror the body language of your client. Body language speaks volumes. And what you want to do is from the get-go, Jim, you want to identify if somebody is an A personality, a B personality. If somebody is leaning into a conversation, we're going to want to lean into a conversation as well. If somebody's more laid back and reserved, you're going to take that approach. You're going to mirror the body language of the person that you're speaking with in an effort to create comfortability right from the get-go. Highly important. Number two, focus on being great at asking questions. Don't talk at them. Focus on being a really good listener. It is their time to tell you what they are seeking in you as a real estate professional and how you could best help them get the results that they want. Don't focus on telling them. Focus on listening to them, because the more that they're engaged, the more that they are speaking, they're actually selling themselves on working with you. And it illustrates, the more that they're sharing, it illustrates that they're comfortable with you. If you're talking at them, they're looking at you like a deer in the headlights. You don't know if they're comfortable or not. So take the time to focus on being a really good listener. Almost if you have to look at your watch, and if you're speaking for more than 30, 45 seconds at a time, stop, take a step back, because if you're talking a lot, you're out of control. Number three, speak with great enthusiasm or confidence. If you were not a realtor and you were going to entrust somebody to sell your most important asset, could we not agree that you would want to work with a professional that was excited about the task that they'd be performing? So speak passionately and with confidence. Be passionate about what you do and how you perform. The next bullet point is highly critical. Come prepared to overcome any potential objection that you may hear. Guys, what is the definition of insanity, Gloria?
Definition of insanity.
Is doing the same things over and over and expecting different results, correct?
Correct.
So if you know that you're going to hear an objection and you're struggling in terms of how to isolate it, handle it, and overcome it, that is the definition of insanity. If you're hearing the same thing over and over again, what would make sense is to be prepared. So when you hear an objection, instead of being nervous or feeling like you're looking at them like a deer in a headlight, I want you to be in a position where you could simply extend an olive branch to them and make them feel comfortable with how you respond with a great deal of confidence, which will come off as you being incredibly competent. And you do, again, hear the same objections over and over. I'm going to talk about this in Friday's class. Lastly, in your listing presentation, be on time and never compromise your professionalism. Be on time and never, ever compromise your professionalism. When you walk into the home, you're going to ask them back for the pre-listing presentation. You're going to ask them back for the pre-listing presentation. Who knows why I'm going to ask back for the pre-listing presentation?
See if they know where they're at.
Say it again, please.
To see if they know where it's at.
To go over the objection question.
Say it again. You nailed it. Say that again.
To go over the objection questions that they wrote out.
Exactly. On the second to last page, they wrote down all of their objections. So when you're walking through the house with them and they're pointing out the features and benefits, right? You're going to have ample time to look at their objections so you could properly start formulating how you're going to address those objections.
Okay. Eric, when you leave, do you take the list?
You don't take it back with you, Adama. You don't. You actually. Okay. You're just.
So where do you write the objection? You know, things that we're seeing and we want to.
So listen to what I'm saying too, Adama. So what's going to happen is they're going to write the objections, and when you go right, because you handed them the pre-listing packet, on the second to last page, they listed all of their objections. So you're simply going to review what objections that they have, and as you're walking through the home, you're going to be able to properly formulate how you're going to respond to the objections that they've given you.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay, I'm going to take you through an exact script of my listing presentation. And again, as I go through the presentation, you're going to notice in almost every sentence when I ask a question, there is going to be a similar situation, an assumptive close. There's going to be trial closing throughout the entire presentation. My focus is not going to be to take them through a presentation and at the end of the presentation to go, so what do you think? Are you prepared to list your home tonight? What I'm going to do is I'm going to get affirmations during the entire presentation so it's a natural flow. So when I simply take out my listing agreement, they're prepared to sign it, because during the presentation, they have affirmed over and over and over that they will be working with me. So I'm going to walk up to their house and I'm going to thank them for inviting me into the home this evening. And I'm going to ask them back for the pre-listing packet, which will provide me the opportunity to review their objections. The first question that I ask them is, would you please walk me through your home and point out the features and benefits that you most enjoy so I can convey them when marketing the home to other agents and prospective buyers that will have coming through? That is a question. What have I articulated in that question, guys and gals?
I'm the listing agent.
You in fact are. If I'm going to be conveying the different features and benefits about your home to other agents and their prospective buyers, I'll obviously have to be the agent, won't I? So the very first sentence out of my mouth is what I call an assumptive close. I'm almost taking the bull by the horns and letting them know that I am their agent and I will be marketing the home, and I want them to point out the features and benefits so I can do my job for them. I'm not telling them that. I'm doing this in the form of a question. As they are providing you this information, you're going to be writing down what they convey on a notepad. You're going to acknowledge and be complimentary. Why do I want you to acknowledge and write it down on a notepad?
To illustrate that what they're saying is important.
Precisely. So when somebody says something and you take action, Adama, it's called getting physically involved in the selling process, and it deepens the level of interaction. So when somebody says something to you and you take action, you write that down, it's called getting physically involved in the selling process. So again, would you please walk me through your home this evening and point out the different features and benefits that you most enjoy so I can convey them when marketing the home to other agents and their prospective buyers that will have coming through. And that's a similar situation close that we together, you and I. Again, you're going to write down and you're going to be complimentary and acknowledge. Second question I ask, before we list your home for sale, is that not the epitome of an assumptive close? I'm letting them know I'm not there to dine with them. I'm not there to dance with them. I'm not there to date them. I'm there to list their home. I'm trying to be as transparent and authentic as possible. Before we list your home, I'd like to take a moment to learn a little bit more about you and your family. Here's another assumptive close. It is important to me that we build a strong line of communication. Would it be okay if I asked you a few questions? Why is it important that we build a strong line of communication? Because I'm going to be the professional.
We're setting up for, what you call it?
Because I'm going to be the professional. Because I'm going to be the professional that's responsible for selling their home. This again is an assumptive close. So before we list your home for sale, I'd like to take a moment and learn a little bit more about you and your family. It's important that we build a strong line of communication. Would it be okay if I asked you a few questions? And again, the following questions is done in an effort to build rapport. And these are the questions that you're going to ask them. You're going to spend 20 minutes asking them questions and just listening and smiling. It's their time to be on stage. And the more you get them speaking, the more engaged they are, the more it illustrates how comfortable they are with you. So you're going to ask them questions about their family, their occupation, their recreation, and their dreams. And this is going to take about 20 minutes of the presentation. By the way, how long should your listing presentation be? Noel, how long should your listing presentation be?
30 minutes to 45 minutes, our longest.
I don't mind if it takes up to an hour, but not over an hour. Because if it takes over an hour, what you're doing is you're expanding that window of opportunity to put one's foot in their mouth. And listen, you look at politicians, you look at people in the news, they do this over and over again. Some of these people have wonderful, wonderful communication skills. But at the end of the day, the more you are speaking, it only opens the window to put your foot in your mouth. So no more than 1 hour. Does that make sense? Make sense what I'm saying? Okay.
Yeah, also, more than an hour, you sound like you can't get it together, in my opinion.
Yeah, it does. It goes on and in perpetuity, and you want to be respectful of other people's times. And what you said, Joanna, was really important, but it also shows that you respect your own time. Right? You're setting the table in terms of.
I agree. I mean, I need to be out of there hopefully at 10 till so I can get to the next appointment, but
Yep.
sometimes they do go over.
All right, next question to ask. So we build rapport. We ask them questions about their family, their occupation, their recreation, and their dreams. The next question, it's really funny. Very often we'll tell somebody about ourselves, and very often they can care less. So instead of guessing what to share about yourself, what would be an appropriate course of action? Is to ask them, is there anything in particular that I could share with you about me? Again, this isn't about my show, it's about them. So is there anything in particular that I could share with you about me? Next question is, what are the most important qualities? Anybody notice? What is everything I've done thus far? Have I made any statements, or is everything about questionings? Is everything about questions?
Yes, question.
Remember, selling is about solving people's problems and meeting people's needs. Solve problems and meet needs by asking questions. What are the most important qualities you seek in the real estate professional you want representing you? I love this question. They're going to tell you exactly what they're looking for in an agent and how they expect you to perform as the person that's representing them in the sale of their home. You don't need to tell them about the qualities that you provide as a real estate professional. You need to ask them what they seek in the real estate professional, what do they seek in the real estate professional that's going to be representing them.
So Eric, are you simply acknowledging what they say during this, or do you come back and speak to what they
No,
put out
I'm
there?
listening. I'm listening. I'm listening and letting them tell me. And I am basically just taking it in. Jim, this is a consultative approach to selling. I'm not telling them about me. I'm letting them tell me. I'm going to get into that in a second. But all I'm doing right now is I'm setting the stage. You'll see as I get further and further into the presentation, I'm going to get an affirmation that I have those type of qualities. And if they don't feel that I have them, I'm going to simply understand why they feel that way so I can address them head on. Does that make sense, Jim?
Yes, absolutely.
What are the goals pertaining to the sale of your home? Well, suffice it to say, I'm very well aware of the goals pertaining to their home, or I wouldn't be sitting in the home. But why do you think I want them to articulate or tell me what the goals are for their, what are the goals as it pertains to their home? Why is that important for me to have them say it?
To get them involved, talking.
Anybody else?
Handling objections.
I want them to hear themselves say, hey, I've got to be in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I need to be there in the next 60 seconds. I want them to acknowledge what it is that they want to accomplish. So as we're pricing at their property or we're taking specific actions, it makes perfect sense to them and there's absolute clarity.
That is super smart, super smart.
Right? Very often will somebody say, well, I don't want to sell my home for that life, but I understand, but you need to be in Albuquerque in the next 30 days, right? I wouldn't say it quite like that, but I want them to hear what it is they're trying to accomplish. So I'm not arguing with them. Let them dictate to me what it is that they want, what they're trying to accomplish, what their goals are. Next question is, I have noted that you'll be moving to Albuquerque, New Mexico. I don't know why I picked an Albuquerque, but I noted that you'll be moving to Albuquerque, New Mexico and need to be there in the next 90 days. Is this still, and this is neuro-linguistic programming, I'm going to say, is this still correct? Why do I ask the question like that? I noted that you'll be moving to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and you need to be there in the next 90 days. Is this still correct? What am I conveying to them without telling them?
That they need
I
more.
understand.
So you were listening.
Will, you're dead on that I was listening to them and that our relationship isn't fly by night. This could be a cold lead, somebody that I've been nurturing a relationship with for a period of 9 months, 12 months, a year and a half. Is this still correct? What I'm implying to them is this is not a fly by night relationship. We haven't just met. I have been tracking this and staying on top of this and building the relationship. So I'm conveying to them without telling them
What?
that I've been engaged with them for a long time.
Oh no.
Next question. Will, our communicating effectively is essential in getting you the results you want, that you need and you desire. There's a lot of information which I'm going to need to keep you updated on. And here we go. No more selling. When marketing, selling, and negotiating the sale of your property.
Hi.
Will, you guys, if somebody wouldn't mind muting their phone. Awesome. Sorry about that. Okay. So Will, our communicating effectively is essential in getting you the results that you want, need, and desire. There's a lot of information which I'm going to need to keep you updated on when marketing, selling, and negotiating the sale of your property. Hey, Will, would you be available for us to speak on Thursdays between 6 and 7 p.m.? I want to provide you with the important feedback from the buyers and agents that we'll have coming through and address any questions that you have for me. Okay, I'm going to dissect this with you, and I talked about this the other day. Why is this important? Will, would you be available for us to speak between 6 to 7 p.m. on Thursday? Will kindly say yes.
Yes.
What has Will done just now?
And that's something close. Basically, I've given you the listing already.
Will has absolutely given me the listing. He is basically signed a contract with me. If he's going to be available for me to provide feedback, then I have to be his agent. He has also told me he's going to be available to speak. It is critical that you ask this question because there are many benefits to asking it. Number one is I'm setting healthy parameters around a working relationship. Will is not entitled to call me every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I can't do an effective job actively selling his home. I have to take a passive approach, which doesn't benefit Will. So it's really important that you set proper expectations by having a client night where Michael Friedman, they know that you're going to be reaching out to them between 6 and 7 on Thursday, where at that point in time, you'll address any questions that they have for you and give them the valuable feedback that they're looking for. Make sense?
So what happens if during you asking these questions, in addition to trying to get the information you want, but you're doing trial closes, something closes, they start pushing back? What's your approach to handling that? Just
well, let's role play that. So Jim, would you be available for us to speak between 6 and 7 p.m.? It's important that I provide you with detailed information for the important feedback that I'm getting on the property. I want to address any questions that you have for me at that time and also give you the feedback from the agents and the buyers that we'll be having come through the home. Would you be available for us to speak on Thursday between 6 and 7?
Well, I haven't hired an agent yet, so.
Understand. In the event that we are working together, would that be, could you make yourself available to do that?
Sure, that would be great.
Awesome.
Great. Okay. Got it.
Wow.
And the last reason that you want to have client night and have this in place is, again, it provides you weekly an opportunity. If their home has not sold, if they're not getting offers on the home, it provides you an opportunity once a week to have a clear or clairvoyant conversation with them and discuss a potential price reduction. Does that make sense? Next question. These are all questions. Please remember, every one of these are questions. Have you had the opportunity to review the pre-listing packet I had sent you? Are there any questions that you have for me? And that's just now when I'm going to flip to the objections and address any question or concern. And I now have had a half hour. I've had significant ample time to start formulating how I'm going to respond to them. I don't feel like I've been thrusted on a stage. I've had over a half an hour to kind of contemplate, to think through the best way to answer the questions or objections that have been posed. Watch. The next 3 questions gives them one of 2 choices. It's going to affirm that they believe in me as a real estate professional and are excited about working with me, and they believe that the plan of action that I provided them will yield them the results. Every question that I ask is either going to affirm and give me a green light to move forward, or it's going to provide me an objection, which will give me an opportunity to handle that and provide a pathway to a sale. Here we go. Todd, do you feel both comfortable and confident working with me and the marketing plan I presented to effectively sell your home? You may want to highlight 2 or 3 marketing tools that absolutely distinguish you from the competition. But Todd, do you feel both comfortable and confident working with me and the marketing plan I presented to effectively sell your home? Jim, this goes back to the question you asked before. Now watch, Todd could say yes. If Todd says, yes, I do, Eric, he has affirmed me. If he says no, what is the appropriate question that I would ask Todd? What would I ask Todd?
What you'd ask him, what is the problem, or what is something like that?
Would you mind sharing with me, Adana, where that level of discomfort lies? Would you share with me? What I'm doing, Jim, is I'm not running from that objection. Quite frankly, I'm embracing it. If you're uncomfortable, if there's something that's making you feel uncomfortable, I want to be able to address it and meet it head on. Otherwise, you're affirming me and giving me the green light to move forward. Noel, does this make sense what I'm saying? Marisol.
Yes, it does.
Right? So the next 3 questions that I'm going to ask is going to affirm and give me a green light to move forward, or simply going to provide me an objection, which is a pathway to a sale, if I address it head on and extend an olive branch and make them feel comfortable. Second question. Okay. Do you see, Philip, do you see how having a comprehensive marketing plan in place that is being executed by me will deliver you the results that you seek? Yes, great, green light, move forward. No, I understand. Where does your level of discomfort lie? Is it in the marketing plan or being executed by me? Would you share with me what seems to be troubling? I'm going to give him a 3rd opt-out. I'm going to give Philip a 3rd opt-out, or get another affirmation by saying the following. Here we go. Is there absolutely anything you feel needs to be done in addition to maximize to prospective buyers and other agents, the exposure to prospective buyers and other agents? If he says no, he has affirmed that he believes in you. He believes in your marketing plan. If he says, well, yeah, I noticed, for example, that you don't advertise in homes and land. What is that? It's a simple objection. You then have a choice to make. Say, I understand. So if I would put your home in a homes and land magazine, Is there any other reason that you wouldn't potentially work with me as your real estate professional? And you could either put their home in Homes and Land magazine, or you can meet that objection head on by saying the following. Were you aware that typically a home sells less than 1% of the time by putting a home in a magazine or newspaper ad? You see, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, there's two ways to sell your home. One is taking a passive approach, and a passive approach would be something like putting your home in a periodical, a magazine, and keeping your fingers crossed and hoping it has to sell. An active approach would be me going out there and doing an aggressive marketing campaign where I'm doing what I call demographic marketing, looking perhaps for a move-up buyer or a buyer that comes in from out of the area, which requires me to go out there and do some heavy lifting. And that typically is successful in getting your home sold 98 or 90% of the time. May I ask, where would you like me to put my time and monetary resources to work for you? I believe it's apparently clear. Does that make sense? So let's look at the listing presentation for a second. I've trialed from the very beginning. I've walked into the home. I've gotten an affirmation, them telling me from the moment I walked in the home, I have indicated to them, would they please walk me through the home? I'll be their listing agent. There's been no pushback. I've done an assumptive close. I've told them that before I list your home for sale, I've given them another opt-out. I've done a trial close here in letting them know, and by asking them if they would be available for us to have a conversation on Sunday between 6 to 7. They said yes, they've trial closed themselves. The next 3 questions, I've given them the opportunity to opt out by saying they're either uncomfortable with me or the marketing plan that I presented, or they have affirmed me, which leads me to my one opportunity to make a statement. And what I say is the following. I look at them after they've just affirmed me 3 different times, and I put out my hand and I say, great, I can absolutely assure you that this comprehensive plan of action and my enthusiasm to work on your behalf will yield you maximum results. And all I do is I put out my hand. They have affirmed me. They have trial closed themselves. I now put out my hand and they've shook my hand. Michael Zemansky, is this not the epitome of a contract as they lean forward and shake my hand? I don't have to ask them if they're going to list their home with me. They now, in several different ways, have indicated that they, in fact, will be listing their property with me.
Yeah, have your paperwork ready. Get it done.
Absolutely. What are the 2 things I need to focus on now? So they basically have agreed that they're comfortable with me. So we've established there's a high level of comfort with me as a real estate professional, and they believe in the plan that I'm going to execute to get them the results they want. What do I need to focus on now?
Price and commission.
List price.
You bet. Price and commission. So let's get at it. Okay. Here we go. Did you get a chance to look at the comparative market analysis I put together for you? Do you have a price in mind at which you wanted to list the property? Don't worry if they tell you a price that's $100,000 or $200,000 more. Perhaps their roof is outlined in gold. Let them tell you a price. Did you have a price in mind at which you wanted to list the property this evening? You're going to follow it up with them by inquiring. Can you share with me how you derived at that price point? How did you get there? Maybe there's something unique. Maybe the house is sitting on oil. I don't want to guess. I don't want to guess. I want to go on a fact-finding mission, and I want them to tell me they have a price in mind, and then simply how they derived at that particular price point. I'm now going to move the presentation to educating them without talking at them, but keeping them fully engaged by asking the following. Are you familiar with a slightly less than, slightly more than marketing concept? Please let me explain. There are 2 elements to consider when putting your home on the market this evening. Number 1 is listing. And listing is known as fantasy land, since we could pick any arbitrary number from $1 to $1 trillion. This is what we call fantasy land, so since you can list the home at any price point that you'd like. I'm sure you'd agree that our focus must be spent in reality, which is what the property actually sells for, since these are the monies that you'll be putting in your pocket or using to make your next purchase. Does that make sense? Please let me explain. A slightly less than, slightly more than marketing concept works the following ways. If there are several competing homes that are on the market, by simply offering the home less than the competition, you ensure the property receiving maximum exposure or activity. The higher priced homes are used to actually validate your asking price, which typically results in a quick sale for maximum value. Does this make sense to you? You see, by simply offering the property, not selling, by simply offering the property at a competitive price point, prospective buyers and their agents see value, which results in lots of showings. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, could you be in any better position than to have multiple buyers writing offers on the property and the home selling above the price at which it is being offered at? That's our end goal, isn't it? Do you see how the higher priced properties risk not being shown at all and therefore remain on the market for an extended period of time? In reviewing the comparables together, at what price point do you feel most comfortable listing the home, implementing the slightly less than, slightly more than marketing concept I just described? You're then going to take out your listing contract and begin filling in the blanks on the price point that you mutually decide. Listen to me, please. Don't tell anybody what the value of their home is. That is putting yourself in what I call a lose-lose situation. If you are authentic and give them a price point that you know they need to be at to sell their home, and they feel their home is worth more than that, they're going to feel offended. You've just tarnished the relationship. If you tell them a price point that's going to make them happy, you've now created a scenario where it's impossible to do your job because you can't create a buyer. So don't tell. Ask. Ask them if they're familiar with the slightly less than, slightly more than marketing concept. And do they know how it works? As a matter of fact, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, there's a very successful company that uses a slightly less than, slightly more than marketing concept. As a matter of fact, they take their products and they put them on the internet at a price point where the general public sees tremendous value. And Jim, you know what happens? Because the public sees value, they generate tremendous activity or volume coming to that site. And what happens, Jim, is because there's so much activity, inevitably, the people that want to purchase that product on this internet site wind up getting into a bidding war. And 99% of the time, the product sells above the price at what it's being asked at. Do you happen to know the name of the company that I'm referring to? Say it again, Jim, you're muted.
eBay?
It's a pretty successful business model, isn't it? So our focus shouldn't be what we should list your home at. It needs to be ensuring that you have proper activity so we could sell it for the most amount of money in the quickest amount of time. Does that make sense to you, Jim? Then in reviewing the comparables together, what price point? Implementing a slightly less than, slightly more than marketing campaign. At what price point shall we list your home at this evening? And you're going to take out your pen and you're going to fill in a 6 or 7% commission. And yes, you're going to get pushback. And this pushback is simply what?
An objection.
It is an objection, Adama. And we're going to be prepared. So when you hear that objection, Adama, and someone says, wait a minute, I'm okay with everything that's been presented thus far, but are you willing to sell your home? Are you willing to sell my home for 5%? You now, instead of getting nervous and red-faced and feeling uncomfortable, and when you feel uncomfortable, they feel uncomfortable. What you're going to do is you're going to look at them comfortably and confidently, and you're going to isolate their objection and say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, may I ask, is there anything other than my professional fee for service or my commission that's stopping you from moving forward with me as your real estate professional? No, that's pretty much it, Eric. You know, Jimmy, if I can't negotiate my own professional fee for service properly, do you really want me negotiating your most important asset, your home, on your behalf? Well, Eric, the other agent, Rosa, said she'd do it for 4%. Sorry, Rosa, I understand. If Rosa is so readily willing, Jimmy, to cut her professional fee for service, may I ask, how readily willing might she be to cut your asking price when negotiating with the agent that's representing the buyer? Well, that 4%'s a lot of money. And I need that money, I understand. And I hate to equate one's health to one's most important asset, but for the sake of this exercise, you know, Jimmy, if God forbid you had to go in for a heart operation, and the average fee to operate in your heart and save your life was $5 grand, it was $10,000, and there were 3 good cardiovascular surgeons in the room, and the first doctor stood up and said, you know what, I'll do it for 5. You may be a little reticent about having that doctor operate and you save your life. Would you agree? If the second doctor stood up and said, you know, the average fee to operate in your heart and save your life is $10,000, and that's exactly what I'm going to charge you, you in fact would probably be more comfortable, would you not? But if the third doctor stood up and was bold enough to look you in the eye and say, Jimmy, I'm the best cardiovascular surgeon in the world, and I'm the doctor that you want operating on you because I will in fact save your life. Jimmy, may I ask, what would you do? Now, Jimmy, why would you do anything differently with your most important asset? Why would you work with a real estate professional who had to discount their fees in an effort to buy your business? Doesn't that indicate to you? Doesn't that indicate to you the type of value that the agent believes that they're bringing to you when representing you in the sale of your most important asset? You deserve more than that, Jimmy, don't you? That's a simple script that you're going to internalize that we're going to discuss in our next class. When you hear an objection, so you no longer have to be afraid. When you hear an objection, you almost embrace it because you know exactly how you're going to steer that conversation because you're going to do it in the form of asking appropriate questions. Before I get into your buyer's consultation, let's drill down and talk about this listing presentation. Everybody unmute your phones. I want you guys to be engaged. I want to spend some time. I've gotten to know many of you doing one-on-ones with me, and I'd love your input. I'd love your input. Anything you would do to modify or change it. Do you like it? Do you don't like it? Nobody has all of the answers. I'm not that arrogant to think that everything I say is absolutely, 100% the only way to do something. Is there anything that we should talk about that we want to modify, change? Do you like it? Do you don't like it? I'd love your feedback, please.
I just have a question. When
Please.
we're going over the list price, do we have that document in hand that's kind of showing where, there's that one, it's the picture that shows where you price your home above, at the middle, or below, and we're talking about the slightly lower price. Are we giving them a visual on that too?
You are going to show a visual on this. What you're going to show is by simply, and I use my hands often, by simply listing, which again means fantasy land, it's nothing. By simply listing the property below the competition, agents and the buyers will perceive there to be value. And could you as the seller be in any better position than to have lots of activities are showing, receiving multiple offers and the home selling above the price at which is being asked, at which it is being offered at? Do you see how higher priced homes where people see no value risk never being shown and therefore remain on the market for an extended period of time?
That's so good. I do. Yep.
Hey, Eric, I have a question for you.
Please, Michael.
Okay. What if somebody were to say to you, all right, you know what, I'm looking at these numbers, but you're the professional, so where do you think I should list it?
Michael, in listing your home, it's really important. And I can absolutely give you a price point, but I think it's important as we build our relationship for you to feel comfortable, for you to come at this from an educated standpoint and understanding why together we should agree on where your property is being priced at, wouldn't that best serve you, quite frankly?
Yeah, but I don't really know what's going on. That's what I'm hiring you for.
Absolutely, Michael. Would you allow me to go through the comps with you and educate you on how to price your home properly to ensure that it sells quickly and for the most amount of money? What I'd like to do is to walk through that with you so you have a keen understanding. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but why don't you just give me the number and then we'll be done.
So Michael, so Michael's giving me an objection, right? All he wants is the price. Michael, so are you looking for somebody to basically give you the highest dollar amount? Would that allow me to earn your business by giving you a price point that's priced higher than any other number out there?
Yeah, I want to know because I had 2 other agents and they gave me a number and I want to know if you could beat that number.
Michael, would you agree that a home is worth what simply a qualified buyer is willing to pay for it?
Yes.
So the number that I'm going to give you, or that another agent is going to give you, I'm sure you'd agree that none of the 3 agents can manufacture a buyer out of thin air. Do you know the main responsibility of what a good listing agent does?
What?
They put your home in a position to sell by getting all of the other agents excited about bringing through their qualified buyers. What I'd like to do is to introduce to you a concept what's called a slightly more than marketing concept, to ensure that you have maximum showings in the property and put ourselves in a position for your home to sell at maximum value. Because if I pick the number out of the sky, perhaps a number that you may like to list your home at, I mean, what I'm doing is I'm simply doing that in an effort to buy your listing. And quite frankly, I'm not interested in doing that, and I don't think that you want me to do that either. Will you allow me to take you through a process that clearly identifies why it's beneficial for you and your property?
Sure, let's do that. I like it. Yeah, I mean, you're able to bring it back. A lot of times people are just like, you know what, you tell me.
You know, I want to say something to you in the same way, and it's all about your mindset, right? If somebody said that to me, I'm going to push back on that. I wouldn't go into a doctor and tell a doctor how to diagnose me. I wouldn't go into I wouldn't go into my attorney's office and tell them how to write a legal briefing. I'm not there to pick a number out of the sky. I'm there to look at comps and to educate that seller where that home should be priced at using a process that we know works, not just in real estate, but throughout all business practices. It's not what you list the home that's where our focus should be. It's what the home ultimately sells for. And Michael, what do you think puts us in the best position to sell your home for maximum value? It's to get maximum showings, isn't it?
Correct.
So let's review the home tonight to ensure that we both feel comfortable where to price your home to ensure that we have maximum showings so it could sell for maximum value.
Eric, can I ask something?
Stella, please.
Yes. There are some school of thoughts, because I'm too much learning now, that they say when you go to a listing, you have to know immediately how much this listing is going to sell for. That's the value that you bring to the seller, which I do believe it's a little fluffy, because you never know. You never know what this product is going to sell for in this city or in anywhere in the world. So I like better your approach, but
yeah, I want to stop you, Stella, for a second, because what you're saying is, if somebody expects you to know exactly what their home will sell for, it's not realistic, because we don't manufacture a buyer. I can't build a buyer out of thin air. What someone's home is worth is simply what a qualified buyer is willing to pay for it. And that's determined by the market, not by us as realtors.
Correct. But can we have these evaluations of market value of the product, not the price, the value with the historically sold by now? You know, there is some analysis that there are even like Urban Dix or Jonathan Miller has some formulas there that you put now from the statistics a particular apartment, and they give you a range, they give you almost actually what is the market value of this product. Can we use that for a seller, or you think it's nonsense?
You know, to me, again, I've always, listen, It's never been about me listing lots of property. It's about me, when I do list a property, that I'm able to perform at the highest level. I've never wanted to be known as the person that takes lots of listings that don't sell. I think it's imperative, if I'm doing my job, to put my sellers out in a position to be able to sell their home for the most amount of money, Stella. So to me, I'm always going to use a slightly more than marketing concept. I sold 128 units my second year in real estate. I never had a home expire from the multiple listing service. I used a slightly less than slightly more than marketing concept, which ensured that I had lots of activities in the property. So I played to my strength, and I did which I knew was going to yield positive results.
So you never listed with the stubborn overpriced seller. You were wise from the beginning.
Yeah, from the get-go, because remember.
Yeah, because this is the worst experience that you can have.
I think that if you come out of the market and you're willing to take an overpriced listing, you know, that longer that listing stays in the market, it becomes stale, right? You've all heard the terminology becomes a stale listing. And what happens still in a declining market? You know, you as an agent, the longer that home stays in the market, if you allow that to happen, you in fact have cause that seller to lose equity in the property. The market will determine what that home is worth by pricing it properly out of the gate. If the seller says my home is worth $100,000 more than that, then perhaps they are right. You know what will dictate that?
The buyer.
Receiving lots and lots of offers on the property and the home selling for that. Because what would happen inevitably if we listed, let's say a home is worth $300,000. What would happen if we put the home on the market for $1? You'd have to look at 10,000 offers, and inevitably the home would sell exactly at the price point it was supposed to sell at, based on what a qualified buyer would buy it at. What you list a home for is absolutely irrelevant. It's irrelevant. What you're simply doing by using a slightly less than slightly more than marketing concept is pricing the home slightly below the competition for agents and their buyers to see value, to ensure that there's lots of activity, because you can't sell a home if people aren't seeing the property.
No.
I want to put myself in a position to ensure lots of showings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm living those examples right now, Eric.
Are you?
With that, oh yeah. I mean, you know, we did a short sale for a gal where she got bad advice from another realtor. Had the home listed for a year, overpriced at $350. You know, I came in, listed it at $315, and nobody wanted to touch it because it had been on the market for a year. It had been seasoned. Everybody's going, well, what's wrong with this home? It was absolutely nothing. It was a brand new build, and we ended up having to short sale it. And the appraiser came back, said the home was worth $330 after we'd had it under contract at $315. But no one would touch it because it had been at $350 for a year.
What's basic what Todd is saying is there's something called social proof, right? So the social proof of that property was shot to hell. It's been on the market for a year, and inevitably what happens is people think that there's something wrong with the property. So remember, typically you'll receive your highest price, you'll receive your best price on a home, the more early you are in the process.
Right.
When you're getting offers 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks into the home being on the market is typically where it sells at its highest value.
I'd say, if I could add on, I'd say the first 30 days, that's the hottest the home's on the market, because at that, especially in this market that we're in now, where inventory is low. I mean, you've only got so many pool of buyers in that price point. And once that, you know, during that first 30 days, you're going to exhaust all the buyers in there. And if you continue to keep the home price at that market, at that point, you've got to wait for new buyers to the market in order to get new showings.
I agree.
So,
I agree as well. I had I've got a short sale now in Virginia, and I told the seller 2 years ago what it was going to sell for, and another agent came in and added 30 or 40% to it. And I said, okay, well, I didn't take, okay, yeah, do that. It didn't work. And it took a year, and it came to me. Our challenge is we have two banks, and now the second bank is still way out of line. We are much closer, however.
Guys, any other commentary regarding the listing presentation at all? I'd love your feedback.
Very nice. Are you going to have it?
Eric, how much time do you usually spend on it with the client?
Most is an hour, Joanna. I'm in the most is an hour. I don't want them to feel rushed, like they're not important. So I typically try to spend between 45 minutes to an hour, never over an hour. I have a hard stop because I am very cognizant why I'm there and that I'm running my business as a professional. If they see me honoring my calendar, just like a quality attorney, just like a quality doctor or CPA, I'm more apt to earn their business. They see that I'm serious about who I am and how I approach my job.
Yeah, it's very important.
Very.
Yeah. On listing presentations, I think I've learned a couple of lessons over the years. When you take an overpriced listing, it's really detrimental to the whole relationship.
Not just to your business, but to, you're right, Rosa, not just to your business, but you know, you really hurt that potential. You've really hurt your client as well.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, what I think I will do in the future, I always give my sellers a low, medium, and high listing from the CMA when you come up with a value. I don't say your house is worth $250,000. No, it's, you know, low, medium, and high. And then I guide them to make the decision on where they want to list it. You know, what price are they comfortable with? But if I feel the price, going forward is still too high, I think I want to do a plan of action. Okay, so if we don't get any showings or we don't get any offers within the first 30 days, we need to go down some. In other words, have a commitment from that seller to work with me on the price, because I just lost a deal after working 6 months, high price, 3 offers, 1 almost closed, but at the end the buyer wasn't qualified. So that's really the problem with the lender they used. But I lost the listing, and then she turned around and listed it a week later for the price that I wanted.
So what I'm going to say to you is I'm going to suggest to you not doing that. I'm going to suggest to you use a slightly less than, slightly more than marketing concept, and don't ever tell someone the value of their home, because you're putting yourself, I can't articulate this enough to you, you're putting yourself in a lose-lose situation. If you tell the seller a price point that's going to make them happy and smile ear to ear,
yeah,
giving them typically a price above the true value of the home, and you're not able to manufacture a buyer. You can't control that. If you tell them a price point that's too low, you're going to offend them. Educate them. Push back, like Michael, is I want the price. At the end of the day, do you want to hear a price that's simply and I'm going to provide you in an effort to buy your listing? Or do you want me to put in place a platform so your home could sell at the highest dollar value? So I wouldn't make deals with them out of the gate. So I'm going to try to work magic for the first 30 days, Rosa. And if I'm able to not work magic, then we should turn around and have a coherent and meaningful conversation. It doesn't make sense to me. Be a professional from the get-go. You're making a 6 or 7% commission. They want your advice. Lead like a leader. Don't sit there and have somebody who's a layman. They want you to educate them. They don't know what a slightly less than, slightly more than marketing concept is. They do understand what eBay is. They do understand putting a product or service on the market in an effort for people to see value, to create a bidding war. At the end of the day, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, would you agree that a home is worth what somebody is willing to pay for it? At the end of the day, we have a much better shot at selling your home for maximum value if we have maximum showing. Would you agree? So by listing a home too high out of the gate, we're minimizing the number of showings. Is that what you're typically looking? Is that your goal?
Yeah. So it's have that conversation up front. In other words,
by educating them, not talking, by asking. Don't tell. Your home is too important. I'm going to give you 3 different ranges. I'm not the Wizard of Oz. I don't know what their home is going to sell for. What I do is I look at the market, and based on my knowledge, based on my experience, based on my professionalism, what I'm showing them is that there's a litany of homes sold in this range. And these are the homes that are on the market. And by simply using a listing number, which is fantasy, it's got no meaning, and pricing the home below the competition, buyers and agents are going to see value, which ensures you getting lots of showing in the property. Could you be in any better position than to receive multiple offers in the property and the home's selling above the price of what it's listed at.
So that assumes that all of our sellers are logical in their thinking. And I think we've all been in a position where we, in spite of what we tell them, how logical it sounds, we've got people that are, you know, they think they live in Taj Mahal and they actually live in Green Acres. Okay. So, I mean, so now I've walked away from a listing before because we both didn't feel comfortable with the number. I'm curious to find out how you would handle that or how you have handled that.
I would not take an overpriced listing. If I'm sitting down and the seller is absolutely unreasonable, that's like a patient who won't allow me, if I'm a doctor, the patient won't allow me to do a proper diagnosis and provide them a proper remedy. You can't manufacture a buyer, which means you're not in the miracle business. You're there to look at information and use your knowledge and your honesty and your integrity to put that seller in a position to sell their home for the most amount of money and sell it quickly. And by listing their home at an unfathomable price, but I never talk, I ask. So part of my price reduction techniques in reviewing the comps together, Jim, I hear what you're saying is that you need to sell the home for $50,000 more than what appears to be selling in the market. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Jim, you're also going to go out after you sell this home. I know that we're looking at other homes in the market. When you go out and make an offer on the property that you select to purchase, will you analyze the comps and make an offer on what you perceive to be fair market value?
Sure.
Then may I ask, why would you expect anybody to do anything differently on the home that on the home that they may purchase from you?
I'm just glad to hear you say that because I've done that and I was starting to think maybe I was doing something wrong, and I just know, and it hasn't happened often, but every now and then, no matter how logical you are, how much information you show, you always run into that 1 or 2% or what, you know, those 1 or 2 clients that just know more than you. And I think you just have to be professional enough to say, you know, I said at the very beginning, this has to be a relationship that we both feel comfortable with. Maybe I'm not the agent that you're looking for. Be glad to help you out anyway. I'd be glad to recommend you to somebody else.
And I've done that, but I also think that most agents get into a tug of war with their clients. And if you start debating or arguing, you're in a no-win situation.
Right.
I use questions constantly. Right. I'll even say sometimes in a listing presentation, someone will say, well, I know it sounds crazy, but I want $100,000 more for my home. I'll say, so I understand. So your home is worth $500,000. So typically someone's going to have to put down 20%. Would you agree? So 20% of $100,000 is someone who's going to have to be smart enough to have made enough money to purchase your house and saved enough to put down $100,000, but is not intelligent to look at comps and pay $100,000 more than what the market appears to be bearing.
Yeah.
You
lead them to their own conclusion. Yeah.
By asking questions. Don't tell, I ask.
Ooh, I feel much better.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, does it seem logical that I'm going to find somebody who's smart enough to can afford your house and saved $100,000, but quite frankly is not intelligent enough that they're going to pay $100,000 more than what the market seems to bear? Jim, would you do that? Then why would you expect anybody else to? I don't talk, I ask. I never talk, I ask.
Can I ask you something, Eric, please?
Please. Yeah.
Sometimes you have to take, as you say, some overpriced listing. How much overpriced? Because if it's way overpriced, of course you don't take it because it's unreasonable and stuff like that. But sometimes you are willing to take a little overpriced and then you reduce the price. How much is that percentage? You know.
Just Stella, to me, that's kind of being like somewhat pregnant. I don't take overpriced listings. It's very simple to me.
Never.
You're
Okay.
pregnant, you're not pregnant, and at the end of the day, you're either you're an agent that is willing to take overpriced listings on the hope of manufacturing a phantom buyer. It's not fair to you, Stella. You're great. Don't sell your greatness. And I'm going to tell you why we do this. I'm going to be really honest why we do this, because we are so adamant to get that commission check. If you were prospecting enough, you'd be dealing with reasonable people. And if somebody is a complete, sorry guys, pain in the ass and they won't listen to you and your professionalism, don't walk, run from the relationship. Run, because they're going to sabotage you, Stella. If they want to price their home at a price point that you know makes it impossible for you to do your job, why would you even attempt to do it?
Yeah, because I have been once through some kind like that. They say, oh, they are going to cut the price. Please listen to me. I have 40 buildings. I know what I'm doing. You know, it was one of my first listings. That's why I come and I revisited. So I said, okay, you know, something like that. And then I killed myself that it wasn't happening.
So it was really interesting. You killed yourself. I mean, why would you put yourself in that position? Stella, when you go into your doctor's office, do you tell your doctor how to diagnose you?
No.
And don't work with clients that tell you how to do your job as a real estate professional. If you believe in your professionalism and you understand what you're doing, you don't have to sacrifice your knowledge and rules of engagement. You're the one that determines the rules of engagement, not the buyer or seller. They're working with you. If people perceive you as being weak and mushy, that's when they attempt to walk all over you. But how do you control a conversation, Stella?
You know, you say that that's the value.
You don't say, you ask. You don't say, you ask. You never say, you ask. So you're always in control of the conversation by using reason, by using logic, but not telling.
Excuse me if I can take some time of the audience, because with this particular listing that happened like 3 years ago, I asked him, I say, how in the world somebody, you know, they so overpriced and then they will go down. They, you know, they say, trust me, you will be happy to do that listing. It will happen like that. And that's why, you know, I was inexperienced as a broker, and I thought that I could bring the price down. And even I generate a buyer there that he was willing with the architect and everything to work some money down and with the, to offer a better price and give like a credit repair. But it didn't happen at the end because the seller was very negative to sell it at that price.
I understand what you're conveying. At the end of the day, I'm just going to stick to, I believe, Marisol just said, I believe people want to cut your commission over. Honestly, it's not worth it. I agree, Marisol. And Stella, in answer to your question, I just don't believe that you have to negotiate away your professionalism and your power. I'm going to leave it like that and get into the buyer's presentation. But you're better than that. And you're the one that controls the outcome of your real estate transactions. You and I both know you can't manufacture a buyer out of thin air. Agents really believe, it's amazing to me, that we can control what a home is worth because we've got these super duper marketing plans. Stella and everybody else, a home is worth what a buyer is willing to pay for it. Nothing more, nothing less.
Right, absolutely.
Stop putting yourself in a position of failing your clients. Be honest from the get-go. Be transparent from the get-go. Let people know from the get-go that you don't determine the price of a home. The market determines that based on what somebody is simply willing to pay for it.
At the bank, the appraiser.
Absolutely.
And then even then, we have to hope the appraisers agree.
Correct.
That's right. I think, Stella, I think I really understand your heart, and I have been there in times. I think the difference is now with our training with Eric, we're going to be empowered to have so many sellers that want us to sell their property. We're in a whole different situation. Because remember, we might have another listing appointment. If this one is at 7, we probably got another listing appointment at 8:30. So we don't have time to play with this person. Let's just go on to the next.
I mean, you have several major, I had a conversation with Alfonso today. You have Todd Watkins on here. You have Vicki Jackson. You have many agents on this call that do north of $500,000 in yearly commissions. You have great people like Phil Simonetta on the call. You have Michael, who's starting to get some traction in Arizona. The reality is, guys, you don't have to succumb to every client. You know what the most empowering thing to do sometimes is to walk away from a client, like Jim Trout said before. It doesn't make sense for my business or for you, quite frankly, for us to engage in a working relationship. It doesn't mean they're a bad person, but you don't have to serve everybody that's out there. Sometimes the most empowering or liberating feeling is being able to push back and say, you know what, I choose at this point in time in my life not to bring you on as a client. If someone's unreasonable, walk. Don't run. Don't walk, run.
Thank you,
Never had a
thank
seller
you,
that
Kama,
got
for your input. Thank you very, very much.
So don't minimize your significance. You know, don't give away your greatness. You know, I believe that you're great in real estate the moment you start honoring your damn calendar. And when you honor your calendar and you take action each and every day and you learn these scripts, nobody can nobody can take that. They can't rip that greatness away from you. Be great and don't let anybody tarnish that feeling. You're worth more than that. And if you've got a pain in the rear end seller or a buyer, you know, don't work with them, but make sure that your funnel is so wide each and every day that you're able to put food on your table without having to compromise your business principles.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd say it's just a leads problem, really, Eric. I mean, you just don't have enough sellers that you're talking to if you're wanting to do that.
That's at the end of the day, you're 1,000% right, which is why I spent 80% of my day prospecting. And people say, Eric, were you good in real estate? And I said to you on the very first day, Eric, were you good in real estate? Gosh, I don't know, man. I certainly knew less about a real estate contract than anybody else. I certainly knew less about disclosures than anybody else, but I had 800 people when I left real estate that I knew were going to buy or sell within 2 years, and they were open to doing business with me. So I was going to make north of $1 million. I guess I was disciplined to ask good questions and prospect so I could have a huge funnel. That's what makes you great.
Right. I would feel free to push back on me on this one, Eric, but I'd say the only way I would take an overpriced listing is there's a couple things that the seller's going to have to do to jump through hoops. One is they're going to have to sign a pre-dated automatic listing price reduction. So, I mean, because, you know, in some of these markets, they may go 5 or 10,000 overpriced. And I'm going, in some of that stuff is tough with being low inventory and you get a lot of homes on the market. So I'll say, you know what, I'll start it at your guys' price for 1 week. But if we don't get the showings or an offer, then this is what has to happen.
I appreciate that, Todd. I will never take an overpriced listing because I think it's a disservice to my business and to my client at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I'm not negotiating that away. And the same way, if a doctor said to me, I'm going to make an incision. You've got a broken arm in your right arm. I need to reset your bone, but I'm going to start in your left, but I'll change things up. No, I wouldn't work with somebody like that. I want to know from the get-go that I am putting myself in a position to perform at the highest level and doing what's right, not only for my client, but also for my business.
Fantastic. Yeah. But it's like you said, I mean, it's, you know, it's leads, but at the end of the day, everybody has to choose how to do their business with it. And so obviously Eric is, you know, Eric sells more homes than anybody else. So why should we?
No. Listen, I don't want to come off like a, you know, it's not.
No, I'm not saying that. It's you know, it is from authority though. I mean, you've been there, you've done it, and you certainly know, you know, I mean, you've experienced it in do it. So it's going, you know, why, I know a lot of times we push back on stuff and it's just going, why should we be pushing back? Just let those that have blazed the trail lead the way. You know, why do we figure?
Absolutely.
Guys, I got to move on to the buyer's presentation or we're going to get stuck. So I'm going to move forward with this. I appreciate everybody's input on this. So let me jump in here or this is going to get away from us.
Fair enough.
Screen sharing has stopped. All right. Buyer's consultation. Okay. So working with buyers. So never, ever, ever just listen to a phone call and meet a buyer out at a property. I believe whether somebody is buying a $100,000 home or a $10 million home, I think that requires us as professionals to be able to look those people in the eye and clearly understand what their buying wants and needs are. I think once you do that, you are able to be more cognizant of respecting their time and your own time. I want to sit down with every buyer and I want to look at their body language. I want to understand their buying wants and needs so I can perform at the highest level without wasting their time. And before I engage in working with a buyer, I want to set healthy expectations so the buyer understands what they can expect from me. And at the same point in time, what I can expect from them. I look at any buyer's consultation as an opportunity for me to interview the buyers. So first and foremost, work with buyers who have earned the opportunity to have you as their real estate professional. Keep in mind, you are interviewing your potential clients to determine, here we go, if they warrant the time, effort, and resources it will take to have you assist them in meeting their expectations. Guys, you have a say in this, and this is what I was just alluding to. If there is somebody from the get-go who you know is going to be a thorn in your side, push back on the relationship, because it will ultimately sabotage the rest of your the rest of your real estate business. Be diligent in asking questions to build a strong rapport and understand their buying needs. The goal when meeting with all potential buyer clients should be the following, is to get them to sign a buyer's pledge. And I'll get into that. We talked about that a little bit different, in the last class, and I'll go over that with you, is to get pre-approved by your lender. I no longer have a lending team. And do an in-depth needs analysis and set proper expectations. The nice thing about the buyer's presentation is you don't have to internalize this. It's somewhat similar to your open house script. You are going to have your script. You're going to have all of your questions written down, and you're systematically going to ask all of these questions in a very calm and confident manner with really strong eye contact, and you're going to speak really slowly. You are going to have the questions either on the right-hand side or left-hand side of your desk. Why? Why do you think that is?
But depending on where they sit.
Every time somebody gives you an answer to one of your questions, you are going to write it down, acknowledging that you heard everything that they said in an effort to capture as much information so you could go about your journey in identifying them a home in the most prudent and professional way possible. Very similar to the listing presentation, any presentation, you can almost see which bucket it falls into. Am I building rapport? Am I testing motivation? Am I doing a needs analysis? Am I setting expectations? Or am I getting a commitment? So Todd, tell me about yourself and your family. What activities or hobbies are of most interest to you? So clearly I'm doing this in an effort to build a rapport, but I'm also doing this to do a little bit of a needs analysis. Why? Because they're going to tell me, based on their activities or the hobbies that they're engaged with, that may highlight for me certain communities which play into that. Does that make sense to everybody? So when I'm asking them about themselves and their family, or what activities or hobbies are of most interest to them, by me understanding those hobbies and activities, it's going to allow me to highlight or differentiate the interest or perceived interest of some of those communities from the get-go. Question number 2 is what are some of the reasons that you are looking to purchase at this time? Why are you in the market now? I want to understand from the get-go, what is that client's motivation, right? A question that I had asked in the open house script, how long have you been looking and where are you at in the process? If they've been looking for a long time, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, I want to understand what's been inhibiting them. I want to understand other agents they've worked with and where those other agents have failed so I can avoid some of those same pitfalls. So I want to understand where they have been looking and where they are at in the process. Really important, don't tell the client. This is all about you siphoning for, sifting for gold. You're just about asking questions. Question number 4, can you please share with me, I love this question, what has worked? And of equal importance, what has not worked for you thus far in your home buying process? Let's dissect this. What's worked for you and what's not worked for you? They're going to lay out a blueprint exactly how they want you to serve them. Noel, does that make sense? It takes the guessing game. They're telling you what pitfalls to avoid in working with them and how they enjoy to be engaged with. They are setting up the entire interaction or relationship for you without you telling them. Question number 5, really strong question. Have you identified any properties that were of interest to you and you considered writing an offer on? If yes, what about these properties were compelling? And if they were so compelling, what stopped you from writing an offer? I'm going to repeat this because there's a lot of meat on the bone here. Have you identified any properties that were of interest to you and considered writing an offer on them? I want to know, what about those properties? This is part of my needs list. If yes, what about these properties were compelling? And if they were so compelling, I want to understand their motivation here. Then what stops you from performing? What stops you from making an offer? Question number 6 is, have you identified a specific community or neighborhood where you would like to live? If they are giving me a litany of neighborhoods, they have not drilled down, and I don't have an expertise in those other neighborhoods and they're far apart, you know, why would I engage them in a working relationship? I want to work with people who know that they want to move and where they want to move, so I can be of service and properly do my job. So have you identified a specific neighborhood or community where you would like to live? There's another reason that I ask this question, and I think you're going to like this. Once I identify that a buyer that I am working with, we're locked into a working relationship. So in other words, I take them through all of these questions and I determine, and the buyer determines, that we want to work together in a committed working relationship. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the following. I think you're going to like what I share with you. How many of you today are working with buyers? Raise your hands. A lot of you, correct? Don't take a buyer and just slam them into a property. I want to ask you a question. If you had a buyer and you knew specifically what neighborhood or community they wanted to move into, would it benefit that client if you went into that neighborhood and let people know that you had a buyer who had determined that they wanted to move into that neighborhood, they were pre-approved for their loan, and inventory challenges made it difficult for them to find a property? Identify more homes for that buyer to select from. Would that not also benefit your business and take up your listing inventory?
Absolutely, yeah.
So when you are working with a buyer, you are going to have that buyer, when they are in your office that day, you're going to have them sign this document. Where is the document? Buyer's pledge. Hold on one second. I want to share this with you. I think this is really, really important. Okay, I'm going to pull it up this way.
While you're looking for it, I'm just saying it's so powerful, and that's what I do. I sell 98% of my own listings, and when I have all these buyers, there's a little bit on the market, so now I find properties for my buyers to buy.
Amanda, I like your attitude. You're so sweet.
Adama, how do you do it? Do you go and knock on those people's doors in the neighborhood that you're looking at?
I do. And I go, if I have buyers that want a specific area, I first start with for sale by owners, because they've already identified they want to sell. And now I've got somebody that wants to buy, done. And also by me I've worked with 2,700 real estate investors. So the best deals never hit the market. We trade them between ourselves, off market.
Awesome, Madame. That is awesome. So I want to share with you, this is a letter that's already written for you. So this is a template that I use. So a buyer, I've determined that a buyer wants to move to a specific neighborhood. What I'm committed to doing is to either door knocking or calling around in that neighborhood in an effort to identify more properties from that buyer to select from, to be able to choose to write an offer on. And if I identify those properties, I'm obviously increasing my listing inventory. So I'm making more money by identifying active clients. So what I do is I use this letter and says, hello neighbor, my name is Eric Orland. My name is Joe Smith. My family and I are actively looking to purchase a home in your neighborhood. We're fully approved for our home loan and have been searching to buy a property for the last 3 to 4 months. Market conditions and a lack of housing inventory have proved to be challenging. I've authorized my realtor, Eric Orland, to distribute this letter in the hopes of identifying a seller who may have an interest in selling their property. This can be a truly hassle-free transaction by not having to place your home on the market and working with a buyer who is ready to purchase today. please reach out to Eric Orland at my phone number, at my email address to schedule a showing, or if you're indeed interested in selling your home. I appreciate your time and consideration. So again, this is coming from the buyer who I am working with in an effort to expand my listing inventory and provide them greater options to choose from.
Love it.
Thank you. Make sense, everybody?
So you search specific price that it is this buyer. If he's looking for a studio, let's say you're farm studios owners, right?
So what I'm saying, Stella, is that once I've identified a specific neighborhood or studio apartment or specific building, and it fits their price range, they're pre-approved, I'll go into that neighborhood with a letter from the buyer saying that they're pre-approved for their loan, and they've authorized me as their real estate professional to reach out to them to see if perhaps they're interested in selling their home and taking, which could be a very long and complicated process, and making it very simple and easy.
I see. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so once again, once you have identified a specific community neighborhood would you like to live, once I nail that down, they now become an opportunity. They become a carrot, if you will. I mean, I hate to call them a carrot, but it's an opportunity for me to utilize that relationship to increase my listing inventory. Question number 7 is, what do you like best about where you currently live? And that's going to convey you a lot of information. So when you do your property search, they're telling you what they like best about their current circumstances, and you would look for that obviously in a home that you would show them. Question number 8, this is the heart and soul of your needs analysis. Would you share with me your ideal location and home? The more detailed you provide, the more diligent I can be in seeking out the properties that best match your needs and wants. How many bedrooms, baths, square footage, amenities, additional rooms, garage, pool, exposure to the sun. I want to just listen. I want to take copious notes. And the more information that you can have now, you don't have to show 20, 30, 40 homes. I typically would show between 4 and 8 homes and typically put somebody into a property because I was so well informed of exactly what it is that they wanted in a property.
Absolutely. Take them out one time. And maybe twice if I didn't really listen or they saw what they wanted and it really wasn't what they wanted. But I take them out one time. We're done because I listened to what they said.
Really important. Really important.
I agree, Amanda, because many times they believe the more that you show, the better you are. When your work is to be more effective, fast to find it. I agree. Thank you. Totally.
Yep.
Yeah. Love those buyers. We haven't seen 20 homes yet.
Yes.
Exactly. But you know, at the end of the day, they want you to respect their time. And they want to feel so heard that if you are really listening to them, you are pre-screening the properties. You're out there previewing properties. And because you've done such a good job listening, you're now able to identify properties that meets their ultimate needs and wants.
Absolutely. And then I tell them, I give them the list of properties and I say, drive around yourself and look at those properties, look at them in the daytime, go back, look at night, see the neighborhood and everything. And out of those, you tell me in what order you want to see them. And that's what we do.
Question number 9. What are the must-haves in the property you wish to purchase? I love this question because it's going to basically screen or weed out any of the properties that don't match their purchasing criteria, which is a lot. Somebody says, I absolutely don't want a pool. You clearly wouldn't choose properties with a pool. Or structurally, I need to have a 3-car garage. You wouldn't show them 1 or 2-car garages. So number 9 is a critical question. What are the must-haves in the property you wish to purchase? Again, I use this as a weeding out device in terms of making sure I'm showing them the right properties. Number 10. What is most important to you in buying this new home and why? What is most important to you in buying this new home and why? Question number 11 is probably my favorite question. And again, I think what I'm trying to do by asking this question is convey my professionalism, convey the fact that I'm organized, convey the fact that I am here working on their behalf and that I've listened really carefully. And what I simply say is the following. Let's do a recap to make sure I did not miss anything. And what I want you to do is to recite all of the answers that were provided to you in the previous 10 questions. Give it back to them. And I want you to close by asking the following. Did I miss anything? Did I miss anything? How would you like if somebody, could you imagine being in a conversation with somebody, you're engaged in an intense conversation with somebody, and somebody looks you dead in the eye and said, I want to make sure, I want to reiterate what you said to me, and I want to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Would you not feel heard? Would you not want to work with that person? Would you not want to befriend that person? It was really, really powerful. So again, let's do a recap to make sure I did not miss anything. Recite all the answers that they provided to you in the previous 10 questions and simply close by asking, did I miss anything? Number 12, what is most important about the agent you select in representing you? Why is this important, guys? Think about this. You know exactly how to perform in order to earn their business. You're not telling them, you're not guessing at who you have to be. You're asking them how you have to perform in order to earn their business. You take the guessing game and remove it from the equation. So what is most important about the agent you select in representing you? They're also going to tell you how they want to be communicated with. Some people like me texting, some people like me phone calling, some people may like emails. So it's really important to understand how you have to perform in order to solidify that relationship. How soon do you want to be in your new home? Somebody says, so you know, I'm a year out. Probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense to take them out and show them property. But you can convey that to them by simply saying, are you aware with the average days in the market in our area of being about 71 a year out, most of the properties on the market today aren't going to be in the market in a year. May I ask, how can we best assure that we're spending time, both of our times, wisely to get you the results that you're seeking?
Absolutely. And in our market, sellers, I don't even take somebody out unless they're pre-approved. It's a waste of time. I'm not going to break your heart and show you something for $300,000 and you fall in love with it. And if you can only afford $100,000, it's going to break your heart and nothing is going to satisfy you. So we need to start with the pre-approval, and it will also empower you, because if sellers know that you're already approved, it's like you're walking around with the money in your hand, making you on the same level as a cash buyer. They will more likely, be more apt to work with you on the price.
It makes sense.
Amanda, sorry, can I interrupt? Amanda, you have to see the pre-approval letter, because sometimes people, I have seen them say yes, 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 and they were not pre-approved. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Have you met with a lender to get pre-approved and to establish your purchasing power, right? Have you met with a lender to get pre-approved and to establish your purchasing power? Number 15, and this, I love this question. And this happened, I had a class in Walnut Creek, California. This class went on for like 18 months. And, we used to do the class, again, in a live setting. We meet every other week. So the class would go on 6 months. And this class just went on in perpetuity. And it happened to be a really high performing class where most of the agents in that class sold north of 30 homes in an area where the average sales price is $700,000 or $800,000. So I had a great agent in the class. Her name is Joanne Mendoza. And she comes in and she's in a foul mood that day. I said, hey, Joanne, what's going on with you? She said, Eric, do you remember me talking about this client that I've been working with for 9 months? Could not get them into a property. I've wrote multiple offers. She said, I finally identified a home. We write an offer gets accepted, and we're ready to close. And what happens is she gets, sorry, I don't mean to laugh. She gets a call from the buyers one day, and the buyers say to her, hey, do you mind if we go out and look at the property? A friend of ours who is a contractor would love to see the home. What do you guys think happens?
The contractor
tells them it's going to fall apart.
Talks them out of it.
The contractor comes out there and at the 11th hour throws a wrench into the transaction and the deal falls apart. Now, I would have been heated as well. So I said to her, Joanne, you can't cry over spilled milk. I said, what did we learn from this? What's the takeaway so you could run a more efficient business going forward? And I elected to put this question into the buyer's consultation. Is there anyone else that will be involved in the decision of your home buying process? Folks, you want to identify those people as best you can up front. And if they are going to be involved in the purchasing process, you want to make sure that you are taking them out to see the property from the get-go. So there's not a wrench that can be thrown into the transaction in the 11th hour. It is critical. You're not always going to be able to do this. There could be, you know, family that comes in from out of town, but you're putting yourself in the best position to be able to close in your transactions when you understand who in fact are the key players in that.
Eric, would it be okay to make this fillable and send it to my buyers like a consultation package so they can fill some of this out or think about it?
I would like you to ask the questions, Adama, because what it's going to do is it's going to build a rapport and it's going to strengthen your relationship. By asking these questions the way that I have laid this out, it's going to show you as being professional, well thought out, organized, and that there's a plan in place that will allow you to go out there and work to the best of your ability on their behalf.
But Amanda, you said we have to set it in print so they respond to us in writing instead of just talking.
Well, I used to, I have a needs analysis similar.
Yeah.
And I sent, it was from another company, and I would send it out online for them to fill it out. And then
guys, for the sake of time, I'm going to jump in. I have to get through this. Sorry, guys. For the sake of time, I need to get through this. So, question number 16. So never tell anybody that they have to write an aggressive offer. Never dictate to somebody what they should do. Don't talk. Ask. You know, ask them and convey what you want to convey in the form of a question. So when it's a competitive market, right? And I know someone that's got to make a competitive offer in order to secure that property. I'm not going to tell them. I'm going to ask them by saying the following. Are you aware of how responsive and aggressive we'll need to be when making an offer once we've identified the right home to purchase? I'd start by asking, pardon me, I skipped question 16. Are you familiar with the buying climate in today's real estate market? Are you familiar with that? No, yes, you have the ability to educate them by asking a question. So you do understand how competitive it is. And are you aware of how responsive and aggressive we'll need to be when making an offer once we have identified the home that you wish to purchase? Question number 18. Do you have any questions for me that I can answer? Again, I do this in the form of a question. I'm not talking at them. I'm listening with both ears open so I can learn. Question number 19. Do you understand how I work and how I'm compensated as your buyer's agent? I'll often listen to agents and they'll tell a buyer, I'm going to go to work on your behalf and I need to know that you're locked in. You don't need to know anything. You need to understand that your buyer understands how you're compensated and that they buy into that working relationship. Watch the difference in asking the question, how the same message is conveyed. Do you understand how I work and how I'm compensated as your buyer's agent? Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I'd like to present you with a buyer's pledge agreement, which clearly outlines the roles and expectations in our working relationship. Would you please sign this document acknowledging our mutual commitment to having me go to work on your behalf? And what I'm going to do is I am going to have them sign what's called the buyer's pledge. And where is the buyer's pledge in here? Let me pull that up for you. Hey guys, did I show you guys this the other day? The buyer's pledge? Okay. Move this here. Okay, buyer's pledge document. So the buyer's pledge document simply says, is that I'm going to put forth all of the necessary time and effort needed to secure you the property that best matches your specific wants and needs. My commitment to you is the following: to identify the most suitable property while ensuring that you are receiving the most value for your money for the property you purchase. You will have a smooth and fundamentally sound transaction. I will provide the highest level of service and be responsive to your needs, here we go, while valuing your time. I will expect in return that you will be committed to working with me as your professional real estate representative and transact on your behalf. And then we both sign this document. The beauty of this is that, again, I'm not asking them to sign a contract. I'm asking them to sign a pledge where they willfully decide that there's an opportunity for us to work in a relationship together. But remember, if you have expectations in your personal relationships, why wouldn't we have them in our business relationships? You know, I always like to say that resentment is a poison pill. Don't have resentments towards people. Have healthy expectations in place so you understand how you need to perform and how they need to perform as well. Almost done, guys. Question number 21. May I ask that you be pre-approved by my lender? And I'm a big believer in this. I believe that when you're working with a buyer, you want them working with your team, because your team should be, you should have a level of comfort knowing that your team provides at the highest level possible. So may I ask that you be pre-approved by my lender? This is done to make sure your loan is approved prior to beginning the process so that the offer you decide to make in a home is given serious attention by the seller. It's also important to determine your purchasing power with the most competent lending professional. Do you see the benefit in doing this? And then what you're going to do is you're going to contact the listing agent, you know, once a property is identified, and you are always going to focus on selling the client to the listing agent by doing the following, one of 4 things. Understanding what are the needs of the sellers, identifying, if you can, what are the needs of the sellers. Number 2, build up the buyer by stating their qualifications. Also make it personal. You know, this is a really great family. They've got 2 young kids that are in middle school. They're so excited about moving to the area, but build up the buyer by stating their qualifications. Determine if there's anything in particular the listing agent or seller is looking for to make things easier for all involved. And number 4 is understand the situation, what current offers or expectations of the other offers and details that they may share to put your buyer in a better position to secure the property. Cannot tell you how many times when I've been working with a buyer where I'll call the listing agent and say, you know, in an effort to be as respectful as I can to you and your seller, I want to make sure that I'm not wasting anybody's time. You know, at what price point would my buyer really be in the game? I know that this is a property that has had a lot of activity, and in an effort to ensure that I'm not being disrespectful to you or the seller, would you mind providing me some guidance? Make sense?
Wonderful.
Any questions or comments about buyer's presentation? These are 2 key tools that you need to have in your toolbox. Again, the buyer's presentation, or the buyer's consultation, excuse me, is something that you do not need to internalize. Simply read it. Be really clear, read it slowly, read it with confidence, and show that you're in control. Speak slowly and take copious notes to ensure that they feel really heard. When you're dealing a listing presentation, focus on 2 things consistently. Do they believe in you? Do they trust you? Do they like you? And do they believe in the marketing plan that you've put forth will yield them the results that they want? That's the focus of a listing presentation. And do all of this in the form of asking questions. Being a great salesperson is about being great at asking appropriate questions. I worked the other day with Noel and Will in Will's office. I went out and I did some work with them. They heard me prospecting. They heard me on the phone. Jimmy has heard me several times. Many of you have heard me in a work setting. I don't need to talk a lot. I need to ask a lot so I understand how to perform, and so that I'm keenly aware of what that buyer is looking for in the terms of the product or service that I'm trying to sell them. It's not about talking. It's about always asking and listening. That's what makes you. Being a great orator is not being a great salesperson. Being a great salesperson is constantly about asking questions, whether you're qualifying, whether you're objection handling, or whether you're giving a presentation. It is always comes back to leading with questions, because guys, nobody likes to be talked at. People like to be heard. And you can lead and get your point across by asking questions and understand the power of tie downs, the power of leading with a question. I get my point across consistently, not through telling, but by asking. Feedback. We have a couple of minutes. We have about 6 minutes. My son just walked in. Hey, buddy. What's your, any feedback in today's call? Today's lessons?
That is so
Great.
powerful. Powerful. It's amazing.
Very, very beautiful. Yes.
You're going to need to take some time to internalize the listing presentation. You're clearly not going to read this to somebody, but I don't want you, again, to adopt my words. I want you to let your inner voice speak. Let that inner child speak for itself by leading with appropriate questions. I give you your listing presentation as a framework to move the relationship forward. Don't ask them to be approved by your letter, even when they're already working with a letter. Marisol, good question. Don't ask them to be pre-approved by your letter, even if they're already working with another letter. Yes, I'm always going to ask them to work with my letter because I want to be in control of the entire transaction. And if I've taken the time to properly screen and interview my team represents me. And I know that everybody who's elected or has been invited to be a part of my team is going to perform on the highest level, Marisol. So I'm not going to push them away from their lending relationship, but I would say to them, could you be in any better position? Again, it's a question, Marisol. Can you be in any better position than to compare and contrast what your current lender is offering you versus what the lender who I work with has to offer, to see which one is going to yield you the results that you want? You're in an enviable position. When can I set up a time for you to speak with them? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. It makes sense.
Can I have
Anybody else? Questions or comments?
Question. Can I have a question, please, about buyers?
Yep.
If you have a buyer, it happens now to me, that he says he wants to buy something at a certain price, but after we did the offer, he says, New York will not show. He agrees not to show. But as you said, he likes to have the contractor all the time. So you talk with the contractor from the beginning, or you just wait when you find the second or the third property to come and talk with his contractor to tell you about that.
I'm sorry, Stella. Can you ask the question again? I'm sorry. I had a hard time gauging.
I'm just asking if a buyer says, the property that I buy, the contractor has to say to give his okay at the price that I'm going to buy it, because I want to see how much money I'm going to spend to beautify it or whatever. You make an effort to meet with the contractor, or you don't care for the contractor, just your buyer?
No, I mean, I'm certainly going to act as a professional and a consultant the entire way through. Of course, if they wanted to understand what are the costs associated, I know Michael Friedman had a buyer recently that he worked with, buyers from hell, quite frankly. Michael, I hope you don't mind me saying that. And Michael walked them through the whole process and was intimately involved with understanding the costs associated with certain walls, or I forget what it was, Michael, glass or walls or something like that. So no, absolutely, Stella, I would absolutely perform. I think that's what distinguishes you. It's always about, Stella, providing a high level of customer service without ever losing my professionalism. So I'm always willing to go the extra mile and to ensure that I'm holding that person's hand. They feel that I'm there for them every step of the way, as long as I don't feel like it takes away from my professionalism or it's sabotaging my business.
Okay.
What's not acceptable to me is to work with somebody who's not committed to working with me. What's not acceptable to me is to not have somebody honor the, it's to honor the relationship, is to honor the boundaries, the business or professional boundaries that have put in place to ensure that I can do my job and that they will react or respond accordingly. That's not okay to me.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Guys, I'm almost done with one-on-ones with most of you. I have really, really enjoyed the one-on-ones. Guys, I would get on my calendar as quickly as possible. My calendar is really filling up. Rosa, I know I have you today. I have Paul Wilson, and I have a call with Jimmy coming up today. But by all means, please know that I'm here for each and every one of you. Feel free to reach out and get on the Calendly link and schedule a call. I'm happy to do that and go through your economic model and hopefully position your business that allows it to grow sufficiently over the course of the next 12 months. In terms of Friday's call, so I'm having some major work done on my mouth tomorrow. I'm here in Atlanta. And I'm hoping I'm able to do the call on Friday. Worst case scenario, if I'm in excruciating pain, which I don't expect to be, I'll do the call Friday. If not, I'm going to push it back to Monday at 1 p.m. But they're going to do a bone graft. So I've got, I don't know how that's going to turn out. The dentist said it's going to be a little uncomfortable. So.
Eric, I'm going to have to reschedule my session. I had it for Monday, I believe at 1 p.m. Do I just email you for that?
Yeah, just cancel it in the Calendly link and pick another time that's suitable for you. I'm happy to do that. I really appreciate you letting me know.
So you're available after next Monday, 15 and 16?
I am. I'll follow through on my commitment to all of you, and I'll do a one-on-one with each and every one of you that wants to engage and do a commitment. I think that we've gotten a lot out of the calls. I've really gotten to know a lot of people on the call, and I think that the feedback on the one-on-ones is that they've proved to be beneficial for those that have participated in them.
Eric, can I ask a huge favor? Because for me, really, it's very important to talk with you. I come back to the real estate after I've been very, very badly punched in the past. So I'm traveling for 2 weeks for health reasons in another country because I have to follow up, and I will be back July 2nd. But I like to continue work. That's why, and do. Is it possible Monday 15 or 16 to 15?
Just jump on, absolutely. I'd be happy to do that for you, Stella. Just jump on the Calendly link and just block at a time on my calendar, and I'll be there for you.
Or from overseas, that I will try to make the same time.
You can do either of them.
Yeah, thank you very much then.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, because really I'm looking forward. I need your
I am as well.
Thank you so much, and I hope everything goes well tomorrow with your.
Thank you. Thank you. As long as I have a nicer smile, I'm very vain. I'm kidding. Anybody else? Questions, comments, concerns? Any feedback? Hey,
It was
I
wonderful.
want to thank everybody for again spending. We've now done 5 classes together. I know there's a lot of content that has been delivered. Take the time to slowly internalize and implement into your business. You don't have to. It's not about just thrusting yourself into this and putting all of this in play. Remember, it's small steps. It's taking action, consistent action over and over again. But don't feel overwhelmed, like you have to take all of these tools and materials. I mean, and so far we've done 10 lessons where there's been an enormous amount of information that has been conveyed. Take the time to allow it to simmer and assimilate properly into your business.
I'm so happy that I met you online. Thank you, all of you. Eric, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Steph.
Happy to meet you.
You're welcome. Guys, if there's no other questions, thank you for participating today, and hopefully I will see you on Friday. If you need anything, feel free to reach out to me. My cell phone number again is 415-595-9000. If there's any questions you have regarding the content or anything that you want to discuss with me, please feel free to reach out and to call me. And then I have a call right now with Rosa. Rosa, I'm going to send you a link so we can just jump right back on here. And then Jimmy,
Right.
Jimmy, I got a 3:30 with you, right?
Yeah, the guy may want to postpone it, so I'll double check and I'll let you know.
Sounds good, guys. Thank you. Have a great
Take care.
evening.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
I'm telling you,
Bye.
Bye, guys.
if you don't put it to work, you're not gonna see success.
Thanks, buddy.